This is an example of a simple intelligence problem. It describes a situation, a question to answer, and additional available information. We have to find the most likely answer to the question based on the available information, which is generally incomplete, uncertain, and contradictory. Let's read this problem description carefully because we will use it to teach you how to solve this kind of problems. Today's Washington Post published an article that concerns how safely radioactive materials are stored in this general area. Willard, the investigative reporter and author of this piece, begins by noting how storage of nuclear and radioactive material is so frequently haphazard in other countries, and wonders how carefully these materials are guarded here in the United States, particularly in this general area. In the process of his investigation, the reporter notes his discovery that a canister containing cesium-137 has gone missing from the XYZ company in Maryland just 3 days ago. The XYZ company manufactures devices for sterilized medical equipment and uses cesium-137 in these devices along with other radioactive materials. This piece arouses your curiosity because of your concern about terrorists planting dirty bombs in our cities. The question is the cesium canister missing from the XYZ warehouse? And here is the available information. Contacted about the cesium-137 canister, Ralph, the supervisor of the warehouse, reports that the cesium-137 canister is registered as being in the warehouse, that no one at the XYZ company had checked it out, but it is not located anywhere in the hazardous material locker. He also indicates that the lock on the hazardous material locker appears to have been forced. We have to assess the hypothesis that the cesium canister is missing from the warehouse. Let's read again the available information. This suggests the following informal argument. The canister was in the warehouse, but it is no longer there and it was not checked out. If this is true, then the canister is missing from the warehouse. We next have to determine which is the relevant evidence for this informal argument, which is itself a hypothesis. As indicated before, evidence is any item of information that favors or disfavors a hypothesis and therefore assists in proving or disproving it. If an item of information says nothing related to a hypothesis, then it is not evidence for that hypothesis. The Washington Post article is relevant because it claims that the canister is missing and therefore it is no longer in the warehouse. Ralph is telling us that the cesium-137 canister is registered as being in the warehouse. This is also a relevant item of evidence because it claims that the canister was in the warehouse. Ralph's statement that the cesium canister is not located anywhere in the hazardous material locker also indicates that the canister is no longer in the warehouse. Finally, Ralph's statement that no one at the company had checked the cesium canister out states explicitly that the canister was not checked out from the warehouse. Notice that in each of these examples, an item of evidence is a short statement from the problem description. We next have to determine the credibility of each item of evidence. The credibility answers the following question. What is the probability that what the evidence is telling us is true? In general, The credibility of an item of evidence depends on the credibility of its source. What is the credibility of E1? The source of E1 is Washington Post. What is, in general, the credibility of an item of information from Washington Post? Washington Post is a reputable publication, but let's say, for the sake of this example, that the credibility is likely. What is the credibility of E2? The source of E2 is Ralph. Ralph, who is a supervisor of the warehouse, has a good reputation. We will therefore assume that the credibility is very likely. What is the credibility of E3? Very likely because this is another statement made by Ralph. Similarly, the credibility of E4 is also very likely.